Good morning and welcome to the CITE View on a second line. My name is Leslie Moyo. In today's program, we're privileged to be sitting with the United Kingdom Ambassador to Zimbabwe, His Excellency Peter Vowles. He is here in Bulawayo attending the Zimbabwe International Trade Fair. Welcome and good morning.
Good morning, Leslie. Thank you.
You've been in Zimbabwe since around October 2023. How are you finding the country, its people, and the various cultures that you've encountered so far?
Yeah, no, you're right. So I've been here 18 months. This time, I was here before in the 1990s, but this time as an ambassador, I've been here a year and a half. And it's a fantastic job. I love being an ambassador to Zimbabwe. It's a fantastic country. I've had an amazing time traveling around the country, meeting people from all different walks of life. And everywhere I go, I met with sort of kindness and hospitality and humor, and so yeah, it's a great place to be. I have to sort of say sometimes I feel like I should spend more time in Bulawayo, and so it's really good today to be back here for the whole week, and it just reminds me how much I love this city as well. So yeah, it's great to be here.
You've immersed yourself into the culture of Zimbabwe. We've seen you participating in cookouts, getting to understand the daily struggles or the daily living of people in Zimbabwe. How important is that for you, considering that you live in Zimbabwe now as ambassador, and how important is that to interact daily with ordinary Zimbabweans?
For me, I think it's hugely important. I think sometimes as an ambassador, you can be swept up into a sort of image of what an ambassador is. People call you Your Excellency, and you have a car with the flag on the front. And you can lose contact with reality. And so for me, it's important to do my job, to understand reality, and to show people that we're normal people. We're just the same. I just have a different job than somebody else. And I'm doing my job, and I have the same struggles every day that other people have, trying to do my job the best I can. Sometimes I do it well, sometimes I won't do it so well. But I think so for me to connect with people, whether it be through social media or in person, is just a key part of being able to do an effective job, because it means that you understand a bit about the country. I'm never going to fully understand. I'm not from here, but I understand a bit more. And so some of those things you say, cookery competitions or just traveling around the country, visiting places, are all part of understanding, and hopefully people understanding me as well.
And you're participating in the Zimbabwe International Trade Fair. How important are some of these platforms or events in terms of engagement efforts between the UK and Zimbabwe, especially looking at trade and investment?
Yeah, the ZITEF is a highlight of our calendar year, and that's why I'm here for the whole week. It's really important to us because it's an ability to showcase the trade and investment partnerships between the UK and Zimbabwe, and I think we see those as partnerships for growth, whether that be growth in the UK or growth here in Zimbabwe, and it's something that we mutually want. I think Zimbabweans want and British people want. So yeah, this is an important week, and we get to showcase on our stand some of the things we're doing, whether that be, and there's a sort of 5 core areas, but there's about how we're really doubling down on trade, increasing the trade between the two countries, making sure that every Zimbabwean producer knows that they can access UK markets duty-free, quota-free, tariff-free. Sometimes at the moment the world is talking about tariffs, but it's important that we can show our commitment that Zimbabweans can access our markets tariff-free. We're building an investment portfolio here. We're showcasing some of that today. So we've got about $1 billion of new investments that we're working on. Some have been approved and are operating, and some are still yet to be signed. We're trying to make the case for Zimbabweans to invest in the UK too, because we have economic challenges. We want to see growth in the UK too. So last year we had Nyiradzo on our stand. This year we've got Mukuru, a Zimbabwean company that's headquartered in the UK. That's great. And then finally, I think this is a chance also to showcase the people-to-people connections and how everyday people make a contribution to our economies. So that could be a Zimbabwean living and working in the UK, contributing to the UK economy, but also sending money home and contributing to the Zim economy. Or it could be a British person living in Zimbabwe, contributing to the Zimbabwean economy. So there's so much connections here. So I think those are sort of 5 areas we're trying to showcase being in ZITEF, and show that there is a benefit to both of us by continuing to kind of make those investments.
But then speaking of trade, We've seen growth in terms of trade between the two countries, but maybe looking into the future, what are some of the key areas that you'd want to see grow in terms of trade between the two, between the UK and Zimbabwe?
I mean, the key opportunity still remains agriculture. That's a key because that's such an important part of the Zimbabwe economy, and we've seen, continuing seeing Zimbabwean producers access our markets, selling their really high quality produce to British markets. And I think, we've got examples here today. We've got the Horticulture Development Council on our stand, showcasing how they're trying to connect, big commercial farms with small farmholders to get their produce into European and British supermarkets. So that's really good. I think we could do more of that. And partly that's that point about understanding that you can access our markets tariff-free and that anyone can do that. But there are other sectors that are important in terms of the mining sector. I think we've made some progress this year on that. We're hoping to sign an MOU in the coming months or weeks, hopefully, between the two governments on mining to share expertise. I think there's another, in the other area is solar or renewable energy. And actually for your viewers and listeners in Matabeleland, we've got a development finance project in Binga that is working on solar for community water programs. So sometimes you use aid money, sometimes you use investment, but I think those are the kind of sectors that we see the opportunities. Obviously, for Matabeleland North, tourism is a big part of the economy in Victoria Falls. Obviously, we want to make sure that continues to grow as part of a trading relationship. British tourists coming and contributing to the economy. I think it's important for that part of the world.
You spoke about some of the key drivers of growth being investments and also aid. Which one do you think offers more incentives, especially for the UK? Whether is it investment or aid?
I mean, I think nobody wants their relationship to be defined by aid. I don't think that Zimbabweans want to be recipients of international aid in their hearts. I don't. I think people want to be a more dignified, more mutual way is through trade and investment, because that actually creates jobs. And I think it's more respectful ultimately. Of course, we will use aid where we need to, where there's a real disaster around the world or humanitarian disaster where trade isn't going to fix it. So there will be times when we use humanitarian assistance, for instance. But I think in a relationship between Britain and Zimbabwe, it's probably better to focus on the trade and investment relationship because of the sort of the dignified mutual benefits that creates. People want to work, they want to create jobs. They want to earn foreign currency themselves. I think that's a much better way to do it. So yeah, I see more opportunity there, and it's limitless in a way. There's a sort of finite pot of aid money, but actually trade and investment, there's so much we could do together. So yeah, I would like to see more and more of that.
I think one area where we have also invested heavily is the education sector, especially in Zimbabwe. What are some of the plans that you have to ensure that its sustainability and a long-term impact, I think even for the UK as well as for Zimbabwe?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably Zimbabwe more than anywhere in the world has such a strong respect and value placed on education. And that's why I guess, Zimbabweans are so educated and make such an important contribution here and around the region and the world. Yes, you're right, we've been an active financer in the education sector for many years. And I think that's been great to see that and see some of the kind of rates, education rates, holding and comparing, better than anywhere in the region. So it's really good to see. There of course are challenges, but I think we continue to engage in that. I think they're looking forward. I mean, I know that the Education Minister is going to London to the World Education Forum next month. That's an opportunity to connect internationally, to showcase what Zimbabwe's been doing, but to continue to engage in the kind of policy debates. We continue through our global financing mechanisms to support Zimbabwe. And then I guess, what we probably haven't done as much of in recent years is talk about sort of tertiary education. So the offer that we have in the UK in terms of university education. So obviously there's about 2,500 Zimbabweans who decide to study in the UK. They're very welcome, and I hope they get a good quality education that they come back and bring back to Zimbabwe. So the more we can do that and sort of profile that. So all the way from primary up to tertiary education is really important for the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Then the other question that I had was Zimbabwe has its own challenges, especially with the debt crisis. I know the UK has also been involved in the discussions. So what sort of resolution or how are you also helping in terms of Zimbabwe clearing its debts, especially looking at globally?
Yeah, no, it's a really important discussion point for Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has been, because of its international debt. I mean, all countries have debt in their own way. In the UK, we have debt, but it's how Zimbabwe has international debt that it's not been able to pay off or pay the arrears for. So therefore, it's locked out of the international financial system. So it hasn't been able to access World Bank or AFDB, African Development Bank finance at scale since 1999, in fact. So that's my view is that's a huge constraint on Zimbabwean growth. If Zimbabwe could access what we call concessional finance, so very low interest rate finance from the World Bank, from the African Development Bank, that would be transformational for the Zimbabwean economy. Zimbabwe could invest in its roads and its education and its health sectors, its public services in a way that it just doesn't have the resources to do today. And that's something that countries around the world do, but Zimbabwe doesn't have access to that finance right now. So it's critical, in our view, as an outsider. It's not for me to say what should or shouldn't happen, but in our view, we remain committed to supporting Zimbabwe clear and restructure those debts so that it can access international finance. And that's the transformation that I think Zimbabwe wants and Zimbabweans want. So I think the status of that discussion is there's a very clear, structured process set out, supported by President Adesina of the African Development Bank and former President Chissano from Mozambique. Working with the government, they set out the sort of 3 tracks of reforms that the government wants to deliver that would then convince international shareholders to write off or to clear some of that debt and to restructure other bits. And we are an active participant in that process. We want to see it move forward. There are inevitably some things that move forward, some things that stay the same, and some things that maybe go backwards. It's important that there is progress against those 3 tracks. And I know that the finance minister is in Washington this week talking about the economic track and the economic reforms that are in place. And I think that would be a really great start if we can move forward on the economics. There's obviously been some progress on the land. I think on the sort of governance side, there's been some sort of backwards progress or not progress that we need to keep talking about. But I think combined, this is we need to keep this moving forward so that we can ultimately, Zimbabwe can can clear its international debt. What it does domestically is for Zimbabwe, of course, but we as the UK want to, I think every time I see the government and the stakeholders remain committed to seeing this move forward together.
And then also Zimbabwe is in the process of, trying to rejoin the Commonwealth. And how is the UK supporting that process? And what are some of the key milestones that you'd want to see happening, especially on Zimbabwe's part, to ensure their readmission into the Commonwealth?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been clear. I think since I've been here, at least, and my predecessor, that we absolutely want to see Zimbabwe rejoin the Commonwealth. We can see the benefits for Zimbabwe and for Zimbabweans being part of that Commonwealth community. And we've always been clear that when the time is right, we would support Zimbabwe readmission. It's important, though, to say that it's not a UK choice. Obviously, people look to the UK and say because of the origins of the Commonwealth, but actually the Commonwealth is a consensus organisation of 56 countries, and it's important that we are able together to approve Zimbabwe's readmission. So what I think needs to happen is that there's a new Secretary General for the Commonwealth, so Shirley Botshe, who's the former Ghanaian Foreign Minister. She's just started this month, I think, as the Secretary General. So I think what needs to happen is she needs to undertake an assessment mission. So come to Zimbabwe, talk to civil society, talk to government, talk to all stakeholders to understand Zimbabwe's desires, why it wants to join the Commonwealth, and then put a recommendation forward to the membership. And then the members can then make a decision on that basis. So I think that's all that needs to happen. We're clear as the UK government position is as one of those 56, not the one, but we're clear that we would like to see an assessment mission happen this year so that we can actually move this forward together.
Okay. And then looking ahead, what are some of the key areas in terms of strengthening bilateral ties with Zimbabwe, maybe in the next year or two for the embassy?
So I think we've talked about lots of them. So I mean, obviously, trade and investment is this week is at the heart of that relationship. That's what is a a modern partnership between our two countries based on trade, based on our collaboration. I think we want to continue. I want to continue to deepen our relationship with the government of Zimbabwe, and that means being at the table, having the conversations together, sometimes agreeing, sometimes disagreeing, but being able to do that together. That's what kind of mature friends are able to do. And then there's a kind of the relationship between our people, and we talked a bit about the sort of people-to-people connections. For me, it's making opportunities to amplify those and show just how connected we are. We're really excited about. I mean, it's about the cricket. I mean, it sounds sometimes a bit, but we've got Zimbabwe going to England for the first time in 22 years to play a test match. I'm going to go next month. I'm not sure who I'm cheering, maybe half-half. But I think that's a great opportunity just to show to everybody that we're able to do, this brings goodwill, it brings good spirits, it's lighthearted, it's sport, it's not politics. But I think actually that, I hope, creates an atmosphere that others feel that we can collaborate and get over some of the historical challenges we've had. And I would like to see the relationship continue between Zimbabwe and the UK in the broadest sense, continue to deepen and deepen in the course of the next year.
Thank you so much for taking time to speak to us this afternoon. If you're just joining us, we're talking to the UK ambassador to Zimbabwe, His Excellency Pete Vowles, and he was just talking about the bilateral ties, the investment opportunities that are present for Zimbabweans, especially those who are in the UK. And we spoke a lot about some of the ways in which the UK and Zimbabwe are collaborating, whether it's investment, trade, as well as in education, as well as sport. Thank you so much for joining us. Join us again in the next edition of the CITE View.